long ago, I tattooed my neck, and people said that, you know, I was crazy for doing it, but, you know, on this side it says, yet would I wish to live, love, die with thee. And on this side it says, what the fuck does it say? Well, I grew up, you know, underneath my grandfathers from both sides of my family. They owned an oil field across the street from my house. It was just a great place to grow up. My dad called it a coal mine education. Me nor my dad were really like school dudes. We kind of expressed ourselves through playing drums, building things like skateboards, skimboards, you know, surfing. I started venturing off into New York City and going to CBGBs in the early days, and the New York hardcore scene was rising up, and there was a lot of positivity. 1988, I joined the Marine Corps because my buddies were all enlisted. You know, I realized that you can let life run over you, or you can step out front and make a decision and kind of, you know, go for it. I got out of the Marine Corps and just, I never looked back. I was actually living in Brooklyn. I was exploring art for the first time and working for designers. A friend of mine died. It was like weird to lose somebody my age. I left my bike, bitchin' apartment, and I never went back. And I just realized how important the shore was to me and my friends were to me. I've been here ever since. And found myself in Asbury Park, meeting up with other musicians and playing in different clubs and, you know, skateboarding, surfing, you know, all that stuff that goes along with it. Because there was nothing going on in boarded up buildings and people were afraid of it, you know, we moved in. You know, we weren't afraid. You know, I rented a storefront that was boarded up and I built my first hot rod there, and I don't think anybody, like, of the right mind were living in Asbury Park. You know, there was like a few bars and it was really seedy, and, you know, the rich walked off after the riots and, you know, left these epic buildings, you know, but it just so happened that there happened to be a couple great, you know, rock and roll bars there, and that's what brought us young guys. We wanted to listen or play rock and roll. Where else but, you know, the only undeveloped piece of East Coast property. And slowly we rebuilt, you know, we swept, we cleaned, we saw that as, you know, our utopia. All of a sudden, lots of great people started to come to town. I'm an outsider, and a lot of other outsiders came in. They saw an opportunity. You know, and there we were, a bunch of goofy artists that crawled out of buildings, you know, like little sewer rats. So I decided to throw a hot rod show. At the time, the Wonder Bar was kind of not doing much. And so I threw my first show there. It's called the Jalopy Jump and Jive. The Asbury Lanes was a forgotten place. There was a beautiful family that was protecting it. So I called them up and said, listen, I'd like to bring my entourage, my family, over there. The other end of the phone said, we've been thinking about that since day one when you threw that party. We grabbed our tools and we got to work and we redid the place, and we didn't take the charm away. We embraced it and we added more charm. We felt that little tiny spark that was still kind of alive. I think music, and the right music, kind of unifies us all. I remember standing around looking at black guys with mohawks and gay couples kissing and suits and punkers and metalheads, and it didn't matter because we cared and we wanted to share that. You know, it just took off, and I think a lot of people started to feel life being breathed back into the city. I was reading this incredible book about the early days of board track racing, and the beach proved to be one of the greatest places to test some insane piece of machinery that you didn't know if it was going to blow up or the wheels would fall off. You know, it organically came to me one day sitting at the convention center, and I looked down the beach, you know, and I saw a drag strip, and the rest was history. We, in 2 months, threw a show together, and we wound up on the cover of Hot Rod magazine. You know, we've tried to duplicate it in even California. There's nothing like New Jersey. People ask all the time, like, hey, what is it you do? And I don't even know how to answer it. I say, You know, I'm a jackass of all trades, master of none, you know, and it stems from being bored. You know, I want to like dabble in it, I want to learn about it, and I want to move on. And on this side it says, not will I have my senses, will I compare anything to the delight of a friend. You know, that's what Asbury's about to me.
Do you want my IRS name or my regular name?
I want the name people call you.
Tinker. Everybody calls me Tinker. I got that from building race cars in California when I was a kid. Carl Tinker West, that's who I am. Yes, I was born in Culver City in 1935. By all rights, I should be dead. Well, my dad was a sound engineer for MGM. When they only had one knob. We would go to the beach a lot because you could get on a bike and go to the beach. I worked for a guy named Wardy Surfboards, and I learned how to shape. But I always liked to surf anyway. And this guy in San Diego, Maine, he had a surfboard business. So I went down, took the business over, and we had the best quality stuff around. And I met another guy from Belmar, a surf shop called Cold Wall Surf Shop, and I was, pretty soon half my production was going to the East Coast. I looked at the demographics, and I said, why am I here? And I packed all my shit up in a truck, drove out here, and the moment I started making surfboards. 1966 I got here. Well, that was the shop that Lopez and Springfield Lopez, that I had up there in Ocean Township. I told Vinny, I said, you ever get a band together doing all original material, I'll give you the back room of the shop and you can rehearse there. And he says, now you have a truck. I said, what does that mean? When I first got here, I was totally amazed that none of these clubs had anybody doing original material. Because I always liked music, you know, from being from the West Coast, I liked good stuff. I said, you guys are the band, here's the room, write songs, practice. I'm busy because I had a surfboard business to run. I had 28 employees. As long as you didn't make a mess or burn the place down, I didn't care. There was a couple of favorite bars of mine, you know, that I go to. It was the upstage to me, in my humble opinion. To me, it was Asbury Park because all those bands that go there after work, go after gigs, and play and jam, and all kinds of great stuff came out of there. There were a lot of good players around. Springsteen was this kid, he came in and he played. You could tell right away. He had it. When he stopped Steel Mill, I said, you're going to be bigger than Bob Dylan. You're going to be huge. And he looked at me like, well, you know. But the thing is, he knows how to put on a show. He's the world's greatest live performer. And plus the band was just good as hell then. It was really hot. I was the manager. I managed everything. I went and got some 1567A mixers, some amplifiers, and started building my own cabinets. And all of a sudden I could play to 3,000 people with no problem. And that's how we got this thing really rolling. But Asbury's got some really nice monumental shit here. Here's the thing, I like doing something I haven't done before, and I get really good at it, and then I get bored and do something else. I thought about doing things that everybody liked. Putting on shows was a lot of fun. So it always works better when everybody pulls together.
I used to come here back in the day in Asbury Park to the Stone Pony. We were like, I had a boyfriend who looked like Bon Jovi. My name is Tina Caracas. I was born in Neptune City, and I am a designer. I sell furniture, I work in fashion, and I love taking photographs. 2003, maybe, my friend Brad Hoffer had a gallery on Cookman, but there was nothing else on the street. There was a lot of abandoned stores and dilapidated buildings, and it was like a really cool place to be. Like, I like the scariness of it. I love the old buildings. And I was surrounded by artists, like people that wanted to be bigger in the art world or the fashion world or writers or, you know, builders or sculptors. Like, everything was kind of happening here, and they were all kind of like dirty and grungy and kind of like my style. Like, you know, like they say, Water seeks its own level. I finally felt like this was home. You look at Cookman Avenue and you see it, how like all these people that started like 15 years ago, how they kept there and held on to the fact that it was going to change. So we're at the space is Denny Clinch Transparent. It's a gallery / retail / music venue. I sell furniture, mid-century pieces. I helped curate the space with Danny. I like the growth. I wouldn't be able to sell furniture 5 years ago. I like the idea of us trying to help people that need the help. Like, I think it's really important. I give back by volunteering for an organization on the West Side. It's KYDS. They're going to be here in this space doing an open mic night, a fundraiser, so they can raise money for their nonprofit organization of teaching kids meditation, yoga, spoken word, positive messages. That's really what it's all about. What I like the most about the community in Asbury Park is the way they care. The way if somebody needs help, there's somebody there that's there to help if I ever said I need help. It makes me cry. It's because there's people here that I wouldn't, I'm lucky. I'm so fortunate to be in this space where I am, Asbury Park. I mean, there's love here. I have a lot of love here.
George Corbin. I was born in Asbury Park, and my grandfather, he came into Asbury Park in 1929. He worked delivering groceries to all the major hotels along the beachfront area. Bought his first home on Atkins Avenue in Asbury Park, and that's where I was raised. On the West Side also, the Italian families, the Greek families, the Puerto Rican families, that immigrated to Asbury Park too. Remember, work in the major hotel industry area. When I was about 7, my mom started taking us down, putting us on rides. So I recall walking down Cookman Avenue, or even Lake Avenue, to the Mayfair Theater, which was an amazing theater at the time because of the moving skylight. Now, the club venues in that time on the West Side was the Leo's Turf Club, which is still located, the building still is, but we used to peek at the different bands, Ohio Players, you name it, they were there. Just west of us was the Carver Hotel, the only hotel that made available for all these big name acts to come and stay. We would see James Brown walking up. We would see the Temptations in that area walking around. We were just mesmerized. In 1970, of course, was the riots. This side of town became a desert where every store was burnt down and no one rebuilt. So I just said, I got to get out of here. So I joined the United States Air Force in 1973. And throughout my 4 years of the Air Force traveling the world, everyone heard of Asbury Park. And I'm bragging about Asbury to people that didn't know anything about Asbury. Oh my gosh, you're talking about pride. I didn't have to return after my service to the country was up. I did it because I wanted to get back home to Asbury Park. And when I came back, I wanted to do something. I said, how can I help my city? Then someone came to me with a police application and said, here's how you can help. So I became the community policing officer. So we're going to go out into the community. We're going to listen to the law-abiding citizens. We're going to get our information from them as to what's going on their streets. We formed neighborhood watch associations. So my pride in Asbury, and that pride was what was able to get me through all of even my own personal hard times. So all I want to do is continue helping everyone in Asbury. Now, I'm the co-founder, along with Reverend DeVizia Johnson of St. Stephen's AME Zion Church, of Asbury Park Community Action Network, or short, Asbury Park CAN. We assembled a group of local pastors and all the local police departments, the prosecutor's office, the business community, educational community. We got them all together. We dropped crime to the lowest level in recent history. What I see today is East meets West. Let's replant something I saw coming up, where it's almost a daily exposure of music, and I can do that type of mentality. Each one can teach one. Each one can help another. One of the questions when you have your evaluation to become a police officer, why do you want to become a police officer? I said, I want to help people. And I stand on the shoulders of those who helped me. I'm just passing on that which was given me. It's simple. It's simple. It's called Asbury Park.
Gina and rock and roll just made sense. And if you're going to get up on stage, you might as well go balls out. No pun intended. I'm a chiropractor, a musician, and I've become a transgender activist. My family is from Brooklyn, and I was brought up and born in Bricktown. Used to come up here when I was younger and go out to the bars and stuff too. When I was 18 was the drinking law. Well, we're coming into the 80s. It was the tail end of rock and roll and the beginning of the 80s, and it was new wave and punk, and it was time to get your tight parachute pants on, the capizios. I drink to steal. I was always a female. People say, when did you become a woman? And I had to wrap my head around coming to the conclusion that I really was a woman, in a man's body. I think more than anything, because I didn't have any idea what transgender was back then, I don't even think the word existed. And there was no internet, no portal in order for you to understand, that you're not alone. So you grow up pretty much in those decades thinking that there's something wrong with you.
I have all that I could want, but they must have all for me.
And I was honest and forthcoming with anybody that I was in a relationship with, especially when I got married and I had children. And I was able to share that with somebody, and that was special to me. I knew that at that point, self-acceptance was the most important part of the journey. That more people would be comfortable with me if I was comfortable with myself. Part of the reason why it took me so long to transition was I thought I was going to really hurt my children. Little did I know how much value it was going to have to be able to show my children what it's like to be your true self and to stand up for yourself, to be proud of that, and how it would echo into their lives. And I couldn't be prouder of them. So when I got to the beaches in Asbury Park, and I was surrounded by so much acceptance and love, it gave you a green light to just be yourself. I started running the boardwalk because, it was a great place to run. And, there was no development on the boardwalk. But in its decay, it was beautiful. And people would walk up to me after they'd been out at a night of paradise or a club around and say, one of the reasons why I moved here is because we came down a couple weekends and we would see you running. And when we saw you running, we knew this is a community that we wanted to belong to. I came here, I was married, I had children, I was a doctor, I was a musician, and I brought all of that to Asbury Park with me. Everybody was just so accepting. And the next thing I know, I met enough people who would hear my songs and start sitting in with me that I started a band called Gina and Dragster.
And I got my birth certificate in my mailbox today. It's official.
Well, for me, it was very special because it says female on my birth certificate, which is very validating for any trans person. I hope, what I give back to the community is courage. Asbury Park gives everybody a license to find themselves because Asbury Park's about freedom, celebrating diversity. It's about creativity and celebrating life.
My name is Neil O'Brien.
and I'm a sign painter, an artist.
Okay, cool.
Growing up, I knew I wanted to be an artist. It was something I was pushing for. I kind of knew that it was going to involve my hand in some way.
I grew up in Middletown, New Jersey, and lived there until I went to school in New York. And I was coming back home, visiting lots of friends here, and I started seeing stuff in Asbury Park. There were 2 galleries at the time that popped up on Cookman Ave, with Brad Hoffer at Asbury Art Gallery, and then right next door was Michelle Schaefer at the B Gallery. It was completely empty on Cookman Avenue. There was 4 or 5 stores that were open, you know. We would make paintings and we would hang them up on buildings. But there was like a pretty vibrant scene. People would come out to these openings. You'd get a crowd of 100, 150 people at these art events, and it was happening. It was a lot of fun. Having art in a neighborhood kind of builds. Everyone takes a little piece of that inspiration and goes and does their own project. I think the first thing that I did on the boardwalk was the beach bar sign that's hanging right as you kind of enter Convention Hall there. And once that first one was up there, that was sort of, I got the ball rolling. Then I was making signs for Anchor's Bend and just up and down the boards, whatever they needed. And they wanted to try and tie in the history of the boardwalk and these old buildings with things that were hand painted. It just made sense rather than a plastic thing that was printed out than to have something that was done by hand. I like the challenge of here's this space, it's 2 feet by 3 feet, and you've got to use the least amount of words and maybe just the right combination of colors, and you want it to be somehow like fun and uplifting and something special, something that's going to stand out. Aside from my sign painting and artwork, I also play music in bands and I do DJing. The local radio station will do fundraisers, having DJs there to make an event and get some money in for the local station, and done art shows, trying to use the talents that I have to give back in some way.
The work kind of doesn't feel like work. It's kind of, what you'd like to be doing anyhow. The thing I like about Asbury, everyone's different artistic takes, everyone's got their projects. One person's working on a movie, another guy's got his band that he's putting together, someone else is making candles, and everyone's involved in doing things and making things. It's a really creative, active community. There's something going on just about every day. Managed to carve out a little spot for myself. I can't imagine that I could do this anywhere else. I'm pretty lucky.
When we first started Lord Gunner Group, started writing songs. This is the first song we wrote. It's called Sacred Heart. Every town has a Sacred Heart. Coming to Asbury Park, everything this year. It was great. A lot of concerts. You could see anybody. Elton John, yes. Robin Trower. So Chuck Berry, the shows were phenomenal. Boardwalk packed. Any band. So we'd come here to the concerts. I stayed here so much that I got to be good friends with Richie Simonson, the owner of the Student Prince. Who's playing there? But Bruce. 5, 6 nights a week. $1 to get in and see Brucey. And then we go across the street for another group, Sunshine Inn. Back then was every bar had a band. You just hang outside the door, you go out, it's crowded. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, didn't matter. It was the Paris Island, to me, of bringing up music, because I got to see the best. I was playing myself, and I joined a local band at the time. It was called Cahoots. We changed it to Coal Blast and Steel with the horns. We worked 7 nights a week. Even though Bruce had already been signed with Born to Run and everything else, that's when I saw a lot of record people, attention drawn to Asbury, and they started talking about an Asbury Park sound. We were just trying to find our direction. I was as a writer. So they put this album together with Sonny Ken on it, Paul Whistler, all the Asbury musicians, and Lord Gunner.
Ran into a stranger just the other day. I could tell by the look on her face, these weren't going away.
When the town fell apart, more or less, all the clubs closed. And I think people were afraid to come here. It sort of just disappeared, Asbury. I never left. I believed in it. I really believed in it. The 90s were the worst years for me because Asbury was like Beirut, grass growing through the boardwalk. Debbie and I were together then, and we were thinking about opening up a club, and everybody thought we were crazy. So that's how we got the Wonder Bar, and that was 2001. When we finally got it, it had no liquor license. And we decided, let's open up a club with no liquor. That's how we started the Wonder Bar. Howard Johnson's was the only place open. He might have 8 people in the afternoon getting coffee over there. But each day, it got better. Each summer, it got better. I believed in it. I really believed in it. Everyone that I would say, hey, Asbury's coming back, used to laugh. Yeah, Lance, that'll take forever. But lo and behold, they laughed at us then, but who's laughing now? Because Asbury's back. I'm proud what Asbury has become. Madison Marquette was a company that came in here and honored everything they told the town they were going to do. There was a piece of property on the south side of the building, a little lawn area. So people would come by with their dogs. Debbie came up with the idea of Yappy Hour. We didn't have a tiki bar or anything, we just set up a little bar outside. And people came with their dogs.
This running wild child has finally found something that's really worthwhile.
But for me, for Asbury Park, it's a feeling. Freedom as an artist to put your stuff out there and an audience that listens. Asbury it's got its arms open to people. My dreams come true because it's still with the Wonder Bar, right across from Convention Hall, the best corner on the block, the best corner on the ocean, I believe. Every once in a while, I walk across the street and look at it at night. I stand up on the top of the landing of the Paramount Theater and look over and go, you know what? We did good.
Asbury's like a really weird story. Like if you read the history of Asbury Park, you're like, did this really happen? My name is Jen Hampton. I hail from the glorious town of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. When you come from a town where you graduate with 75 people, you stick out when you question the establishment, especially because I didn't necessarily look the role, so I got sent home a lot. And I definitely had a lot of trips to the to the guidance counselor. I was living in Long Beach Island. In terms of the summer, it was maddening. So when I would come to Asbury Park, I'm like, oh, no one's here. It was like 2001. I came in Asbury Avenue and I was like, oh, someone's not paying attention here. It just seems like someone had a big party and then never cleaned up after it. And I was like, oh, this is sad. Look at that building. And then it was like, you get to the boardwalk and you're like, what are these majestic buildings? Like, what happened here? You can see that culture happened here. You see it in the buildings, you can feel it. There is this moody quality that Asbury Park had. I'm sure other people would look at it and be like, ugh. I was like, this is glorious. This is like paradise. Why doesn't anyone live here? And they're like, because there's nothing here. I was like, this place is amazing. The catalyst was Asbury Lanes. That opportunity was like, oh wait, someone gave you a bowling alley? And what are we gonna do with it? So it took a bunch of people being like, I don't like the music that's here, and what do we want to see? So we would make lists and lists and lists of bands that we wanted to see. And so I would write letter after letter, hi, my name is Jen, I'm writing from Asbury Lanes, we're a bowling alley. And they'd be like, no one plays Asbury Park. And I was like, oh. You know, and very often than not, you'd get this response of, well, what's going on in Asbury Park? Let's see. Dick Dale played the Lanes numerous times. One of my highlights is Wanda Jackson played the Lanes. John Waters did a stand-up at Asbury Lanes where like People sat on the ground to see him because we didn't figure out he had to rent chair. Link Ray played his last show there, which was really intense. Our target range is 18 to 70. There were definitely shows that I'd be like, there's a kid with a mohawk and the grandma I had to walk to the chair. This kid that wrote for Vice wrote this really great article and he's like, the Lanes is like being trapped in a pinball machine. I was like, yes, that's the best thing anybody's ever said about Asbury Lanes. And so I think one of the successes of the Lanes is that, to me, the independent spirit that flows through all of us is just dying to get out in some way. So if you give somebody a platform or a canvas, so to speak, they're either gonna fail or they're gonna do it. And so there's no judgment. Who cares if your show fails? You try again. Parlor Gallery is a collaborative effort between myself and Jill Ricci, who's an artist in town. With Parlor, we curate shows probably 10 to 12 a year. I think what makes us different is we provide a welcoming space for people to feel like they could have this experience where in the past they felt intimidated by it. Galleries are so important to a town like this. I say I get to witness people fall in love like every day. It's the same way that people look after they see a band. That like, I found a piece of art I liked, I have the room for it, my partner likes it, and I have the money for it. And then they look at it longingly and like, you're gonna be mine. I do a mural project on the boardwalk that I'm super excited about. It's bringing an artist that comes and has an experience. They paint a wall, they meet our locals, they get inspired, they go home and tell everybody about it, and then ultimately it keeps our artistic community growing. I asked Madison for many years, we gotta do public art. You have all these cool buildings. Again, it all comes back to this watching people have an experience. You sit in front of the murals on a Sunday afternoon and it's like, you are part of the process. I picked an artist, I negotiated them coming here, and then they put this thing on the wall, right? And then they go away. But then the vibration and that creation keeps going because you as the viewer are becoming a curator. You're looking at this wall of art and you're like, I like this one the best. I'm gonna take my selfie in front of that one. So then you're a curator, you're a performance artist because you're making your face or whatever it is. You're doing a handstand or you're doing a yoga posture, and then all of a sudden you are part of this project. Here is a 1.3 square mile area with this amazing past and echoes of that past that we live amongst. And like, we get to live here and be part of that quilt. A lot of the people that I encounter now, whether they be friends or business owners or, one becomes the same because we're a community. Everybody has a dream and everybody's dream is what they're doing here. They're living the life that they want to lead. And I think that is Asbury Park.